What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's team selection time ahead of Game Week 12. So we'll quickly go through how Game Week 11 went. We won't spend too long on that because it was a long time ago. And there's some big questions for my team this week around Kane versus Son. There's also Jota to consider, who now is a really, really great option too. I've got 2 free transfers to spend as well. And there's loads of different ways that I can play it. So I'm going to try and talk through all those different scenarios and why my head is going one way or another. Just before we jump into it, big thank you to everyone that has supported the channel and continue to subscribe. We did hit 250,000 subscribers yesterday, which is absolutely incredible. Of course, it doesn't stop here. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already and you are enjoying the content. Of course, give the video a like. But yes, seriously, a big thank you. On to what now? 500,000, something ridiculous like that. Could be a little while. Anyway, let's get into the team selection. Okay, quick look at this because it was a little while ago now. I did get a green arrow. That's all I really wanted because the first few weeks or the last couple of weeks I got red arrows. Wasn't too happy. It was only about 1,500 to 2,000 place green arrow, but happy enough with that. 86,707. Could be better, right? And I have been much higher at the ranks so far this season, but still in the top 100k so far is not that bad. But I've got to stop the rot. I've got to stop those red arrows and get a few more bigger green arrows. So 59 points. Really, it was just Ramsdale with 7 points. I did find it quite funny that Foster outscored him after I played it the other way around the week before, but still, it was always playing Ramsdale. 7 points, happy enough with that. Trent with 12, Cancelo with 14. They were really the big players in my team this week. Really happy with those scores. And everyone else kind of just blanked and didn't really do a lot. Yes, okay, I didn't play Livramento, but realistically, I think there were only 2 players that people would have said to have benched. One was Cancelo, and obviously he smashed it. And the other one was Antonio. And okay, he blanked. It would have been better to play Livramento, but I was probably never going to do that, right? So, yeah, okay, I bench his points. That's a little bit frustrating, but everyone else kind of blanked, and I would have always played them over Livramento anyway. So 59 points, not huge. I want a bigger green arrow. Let's figure out how we're going to get it. Right. We've got the 2 free transfers to spend. There's loads of ways I can play this. Let's just quickly start with the defenders. I will say Livramento may well play for me this week. I'm not quite sure yet. We'll have to wait and see what way I go with the transfers. I do think that flag will come off. I think that's just an international break flag. Obviously, there's going to be press conferences on Thursday and Friday anyway, so we'll get to hear from Hasenhüttl and see what he says. So Ramsdale staying, no plans to change the goalkeeper. I do think right now, like, especially for those of you that are kind of playing 4 at the back, I only have Laporte as my 4th defender. He may or may not now be, you know, he was looking pretty nailed, but obviously got that red card. Stones has played now as well. He didn't really do too badly. So I don't know if Laporte's going to come straight in, but I do think in the Champions League, Pep played Laporte and Stones, so he seems to be liking that Laporte left-sided centre-back, especially when Cancelo keeps playing left-back as well. So to have a left-footer there, I think last year when Stones played, they played Zinchenko on the left quite a lot. To have a left-footer, so there is still a chance that Laporte is mostly nailed as you can be under Pep Guardiola when your name's not Ruben Dias. So not necessarily in a huge rush to get rid of him, but in most transfer plans at some point he probably needs to go anyway. But the Cancelo, Chilwell, Trent and James back four just looks so good. It's really hard to beat it right now. I think possibly Reguilon or Emerson Royale could be options going forward because Spurs fixtures are quite good. I would expect Conte to try and shore up that defence, right, just to make them a bit more solid. Yes, they want to win games. Yes, they want to entertain, but they want to stop conceding goals too. So I do think a Spurs defender possibly could do well, but not at the expense of one of these 3 or possibly Reece James if you already own. So yeah, I've got no plans to sell any of these. I've actually looked at a lot of I've tried to go through lots of different transfer plans to kind of get my head around which way I want to go. And basically, these 3, their fixtures are just good for a long time. And there's no real reason to look to offload them anytime soon. Yes, it means Livramento is going to be on the bench quite a bit, but whatever. Like these 3 players are just so good. So if I come onto the team for this week, like Cancelo's fixtures, I mean, it's a sea of green. I don't always trust the fixture difficulty rating of FPL. But for Man City, like, it's a sea of green fixtures. Cancelo's played every single game so far. There's nothing to say that won't continue. Same for Trent. Fixtures are just pretty damn good over Christmas, all the way down to like game week 26. No reason to sell him. And okay, the next 4 fixtures for Chelsea: Leicester away, Man United at home, West Ham away. There could be some problems in there, but Chelsea's also such a great defence. I don't think they're going to be too worried about that. And over Christmas, again, the fixtures are fairly good. Maybe not as good as the other 2 teams, but nothing to worry about. So there's just no reason to get rid of these 3 players. So they're going to be staying. So defensively, I'm looking pretty good. Yes, okay, Reece James could come in, but I think I can't find a transfer plan where I like the idea of bringing him in, because it just means I can't do something else like Son, like Jota, like a switch to a 3-5-2, like a Harry Kane. So I'm just going to have to accept that I miss James's points and hope that they dry up a little bit. I don't think he's going to suddenly become a bad option with like a sea of 2-pointers or anything like that. I'm just hoping that these crazy scores where he's like scoring 2 goals a game and stuff like that slows down a little bit, and my attackers kind of pick up the slack on that. So yeah, these 3 defenders are staying. Ramsdale's staying. Looking pretty set and forget there, probably for the foreseeable. Okay, I'm just going to bring up the whole rest of the team because there's so much to talk about. And like I said, so many different ways that I can play this. And you need a bit of context. There's no point in talking about the midfielders without talking about the forwards. So let's start with the 2 players with kind of the worst fixtures. So that's Saka against Liverpool away and Vardy against Chelsea at home. Now, is there a case to be made to hold one or both of these players? Possibly. Saka's got Newcastle at home the week after Liverpool away. So if I just bring up his fixtures here a sec, you've got Newcastle at home. Okay, I'd probably want to bench him against Man United away. Then I could play him a few times over this run if I wanted to. So possibly I could keep hold of him. And obviously the same with Vardy. We all know that after Chelsea at home, Vardy's got some pretty nice fixtures in the next 4. I think it's Watford at home. And then it's Southampton away, Villa away. Oh, okay. Watford at home. Yeah, Southampton away, Villa away, then Newcastle at home. That's a good memory. So Vardy's fixtures are fairly good after Chelsea at home. But there is a change coming, right? A lot of people are looking towards Spurs players, I think for good reason. The fixtures are good. I just don't expect them to perform as poorly as they have been over this season. Kane and Son, both good options. I'm going to come on to them in just a second because I feel like I've talked Kane to Son to death, but yeah, it's still not enough. So I'm going to talk a little bit more. And so that's one change. And also with Firmino potentially being reported out by The Athletic until mid-December, that's a lot of games for Jota. And I think I've already mentioned on one of the videos this week, around Christmas time, just afterwards and into the start of January, there's African Cup of Nations. So obviously Salah and Mane are going to go away for that. I don't know how many games they're going to miss because it's going to depend on how far through the tournament the countries get. But that could be some more nailed-on games for Jota. And he's already such a good option. When he's nailed on, he then becomes a priority. So I really want him to come in too. So I feel like sticking with Vardy or sticking with Saka just feels like a little bit passive, a little bit slow at a time when there's loads of other players I want. So I need to go and get them. Just before we come on to transfer plans, right, I think Jimenez is a bit of not a frustrating one for me. Frustrating is the wrong word, but he's causing me a little bit of a headache because there is a way I could take him out and maybe get Kane and get Jota all at the same time for a -4, because obviously I've got the 2 free transfers. But it doesn't seem right to get rid of him when he's got Burnley at home and Norwich away to come up in the next couple of games after West Ham at home. So I need to wait to the press conference this week to see whether he's going to be available, because he didn't play the game after the last international break. I think he's got a little bit of extra rest time this time. I think it might only be like a day or something like that. So there is a chance that he maybe gets rested. It's not necessarily a deal breaker because I can play Livramento this week or Laporte and then just have Jimenez for the next 2 fixtures. But at some point he will have to be downgraded, probably in game week 15, because the fixture run gets pretty difficult for Wolves then. And I think there's plenty of other good options. So he is going to go for me. I just don't necessarily want to do it right now. Salah's obviously going nowhere. Mbeumo, I don't really want to get rid of. I still think he's good value. Yes, okay, people are moving to Gallagher, Smith Rowe, that's fine. But I think for my team with the route that I want to take, like Mbeumo is just not a problem for me. Like, he's cheap. His underlying numbers are good. Hopefully he can kind of perform on them sooner rather than later. Newcastle away is a fairly good fixture. Everton at home is not bad. And then you've got Leeds and Watford over the next 5. So he's really not a problem for me at all. Although, again, I do have a transfer plan where I maybe get rid of him. And then Foden's obviously staying. Antonio's going to stay now as well. Again, I don't necessarily see it as a problem to get rid of him. I still think you missed the boat if you didn't go last week, but you could still get rid because the next 4 fixtures are pretty poor, but you will want to bring him back in. And again, for my team, I just don't see Antonio out as being the priority move, although you could argue that he should go before Jimenez due to the next 4 fixtures, but that's not really what I want to do. So with Vardy, you could keep him, but I think I want to move to a Spurs player. Let me just talk about Harry Kane. So there's lots of talk about how Harry Kane is an easy switch to Ronaldo, and I get it, right? I definitely get it. And Ronaldo's fixtures are pretty damn good, right? We know that Man United's fixtures are good, okay? We talked about it a lot already. a few question marks for me. It's not really about how good Ronaldo is, right? Because I don't need to sit here and talk about how good he is. But is there a chance he gets rested, like during these fixtures? Is there a chance? I'm not saying he definitely will, but they are quick turnarounds. There's obviously Champions League and stuff before this as well. Could he miss one game here? He's not going to suddenly miss 2 or 3 games, right? I get that, but could he miss one game? And realistically, when am I going to captain him? Now, again, there's always a conversation. Should you not get a player this expensive just because you're not going to captain them? Not necessarily. If he fits in with your team, fair enough. But I don't see a game week soon where I'm going to captain him, right? Game week 15, Crystal Palace at home. Spurs have Norwich at home. No one's selling Son and Kane to get Ronaldo this week. I don't think so anyway. 16 and 17 both look good. Norwich away, Brentford away. But they're both away games. Norwich and Brentford. In those same game weeks, Salah has Villa at home, Newcastle at home. I'm going to captain Salah, right? Game week 18, Salah's got Spurs away, so possibly you could captain Ronaldo against Brighton at home. But again, that's not that exciting of a fixture. Although if Man United can turn things around and start attacking as they did kind of last season, then maybe there's some goals in that one. So possibly that is the week that I wouldn't want to go for Salah, and maybe that I'd want to go for Ronaldo. But is that one fixture worth kind of breaking my team apart for? Possibly not. So I am siding currently, or still, I kind of always have been, with going with Son. I do really like Kane, and in isolation, if Kane was the same price as Son, I probably would go for him. But I just think he hurts my team too much. Like, if I want to get Kane in one move, then it's Vardy to Kane, and it's Laporte to a 3.9 million defender. But that leaves me with Brownhill at 3.9 and Livramento on the bench. I don't know if that is good enough. And also, it doesn't leave me with any money in the bank. So before I get Ronaldo, I still have to downgrade someone else. It's all well and good saying it's just one move, but it's not. It's still an extra move down the line. I'd have to downgrade one of these players. The obvious one would be Saka down to Smith Rowe or Gallagher. Like, it's workable. But I just... Basically, the long and the short is, I've come up with lots and lots of transfer plans, and I just don't like the way I have to get Kane into my team. The only way I can consider doing it, really, to a way where I think the squad kind of stays just as good, is Vardy to Kane. So let me find Kane. He's so far down the list because he just hasn't scored much this season so far. Vardy to Kane. Jimenez to, yes, Tony, everyone's favourite player. Let me just find him here. Tony. And then, obviously, I still have to downgrade Laporte, and I would get like a 4.8. Now, unfortunately, because Vardy's dropped, I can't get Emerson Royale, and I can't get Reguilon. And I did say I wouldn't do this, but I possibly would consider Eric Dyer as a make weight. So I can get Kane, and it's not awful. But then, the issue comes, how do I get Jota? The only way for me to get Jota is realistically to downgrade one of those defenders, Chilwell, Trent, or Cancelo, to do Saka to Jota, and I just don't want to do that. The other option is to sell Foden to Jota, but I feel like I'm selling one really good option for another really good option. So Kane, just for me, maybe I'm looking at this wrong. If you can come up with a better plan, it just feels like he blocks too much. And realistically, the only time I'm probably going to captain him is maybe game week 14 and definitely game week 15. I think I've kind of made the decision, and I've got the right to change my mind that I want to captain a Spurs player against Norwich at home. So if it's only going to be for 1 week, could I just get Son instead, right? And I think that's where I'm leaning, because it leaves me with a better defender on the bench, and I can probably long-term switch to 3-5-2, which is currently what my plan is. Now, a lot of people, I mentioned it on Twitter this morning, a lot of people have already said, well, you know, you need a full bench over Christmas, right? I think that's a myth. I don't think from all our times of playing, right? One, rotation is never, ever, ever, ever as bad as we think, right? It never is. Maybe this season will be different, but very rarely do players start missing out like 2-3 games, right? They miss one at most, and then you'd be really unlucky for it to all happen at the same time, right? So rotation's never as bad, and even then, you hardly ever go to your third outfield player, and even if you do, let's say you do it once over Christmas where you need all 3 bench players, is having Brownhill for his 2-pointer better than having a better squad overall or a better setup, right? If I think, and I could be wrong, the 3-5-2 is the way forward for the next kind of 4 to 6 weeks, right? Maybe a little bit less. then is having that 1 week where I get Brownhill worth stopping that whole plan for? I don't think it is, right? Now, it's not that there's no forwards. I still think Tony's a good option. I still think Callum Wilson's a good option. The problem is, if I do Vardy to Wilson, I've got no real good way of getting to Son without taking a hit, which is doable. But again, it just hurts my long-term transfers. So that's where I'm at right now. Right this second, I think Vardy to a 4.4 million forward and Brownhill to Son is where my head's at. Now, again, that feels a little bit slow because one of those transfers is just no good, really. Bringing in Locadia or Davis, the 4.4 from Villa, they're just not going to get me any points. So I'm using 2 transfers to basically get 1 player, but it means I can get Jota in a little bit quicker. So that's currently where my head's at. But I think I'll leave this little bit here and I'll do some tinkering just to show you how it could all work and what kind of future transfer plans are and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm going to go through a little bit of tinkering, right? Just because I know a lot of people are going to say, just get Wilson and take the hit. But I want to show you what that kind of means down the line. And this is the kind of planning that I've been doing, which in some ways has given me a headache. But also it's kind of like refined my choice of why I'm probably... not 100%, but probably going to go for Son. Because realistically, I just want Jota. I really want Jota and a Spurs player. And Kane kind of stops that a little bit, right? So I'm going to do a few cuts in this section just to reset the team and show you different moves. So one would just be the Brighton to... Locadia in from Brighton and Brownhill rather than Saka out. So stay with me just a second. So Brownhill out for Son, right? Now, it's like I said, it's a little bit of a passive move. You're using 2 transfers, 1 for a bench option, but you are basically saying I am moving to 3-5-2 and I'd probably bench Saka for Livramento. So I'd probably play 4-4-2 this week. Not an option, not a problem. I'm sure this will be the week that Livramento doesn't get his clean sheet, but there we go. Game week 13... basically, would definitely play Saka. He's got Newcastle at home. So I'd prefer Jota, of course, but Saka at home to Newcastle is probably not the worst option. And then I've just got to make a choice, right? Do I play Antonio against Man City away, or do I either play Laporte or transfer him out and get someone better, maybe like a Spurs player? I would probably roll and just hope that Antonio gets something because I'd rather be kind of more open to making a move in game week 14. So this week, again, happy to play Antonio now. Saka's obviously got Man United away, so not great. And plus, long-term, I just don't want him. This would probably be the week that I would get Jota in. And again, I've got Laporte sat there on the bench. I need to make some money. So I've got to make 0.9 million. So when I take Laporte out, I've got 4.6 to spend. And I possibly would go for Eric Dyer, right? Possibly. So I just think if Spurs' defence is going to be decent... yes, okay, I'd rather have Reguilon or Emerson Royal, but it just doesn't fit with my team. And at this point, I'm quite happy with that team. Game week 15 onwards, Wolves fixtures get poor. I'd probably switch to Tony. But overall, I think I'm pretty happy with that, right? That's going the Locadia route because it just makes sure that I can get Son in straight away and I can get Jota in game week 14. Let's look at some other ways. Okay, this is maybe a little bit more of an aggressive route. It does require a hit this week as well, but it kind of gets everyone I want in one go, but it does mean having to sell in bombers. So again, let's just put Locadia. I might even get Davis. Do I want to block a Brighton spot or a Villa spot? I'll decide later on. So Saka comes out this time for Son, and then Bomo goes for Jota, right? So straight away you get Jota in. And again, you obviously wouldn't play Locadia, so you would just play Livramento. So again, it's 4-4-2, but instead of in Bomber, you got Jota in from the get-go. And then going forward, game week 13, I think I roll. Again, I would probably have to play Antonio. This is the week where I would basically decide to sell Laporte. And again, I could go to Reguilon instead of Dyer, but I know in future moves that's going to block me. But potentially, yes, I could go for Reguilon. Let me just bring him in here and bench Livramento. And again, I'm playing Antonio in this move, but I've got that Jota and Son partnership straight away. And then we move on. Game week 14. Again, there's no real need to make a move. Essentially, there's 0.7 in the bank. At some point, Jimenez will go down to Tony, and that will give me money to upgrade Brownhill. So it's fine right now to get Jota and Son in, but I don't know if I want to be playing Reguilon that often. Possibly I do. Maybe he'll be fine. Maybe he'll be a great wing back. Maybe they'll be defensively solid. And then this week is the week that I probably go to Tony. I've then got 1.6 in the bank. I can upgrade Brownhill to any £6 million player. If I go for Dyer instead of Reguilon, that could be Bowen, for example. So that is another way to do it. It requires a hit, but it does mean I get Jota right now instead of in game week 14. And possibly that is better. And it means the restructure's kind of done straight away. But I don't know if bringing Locadia in and selling Mbeumo is the way to do it, because it leaves me with Brownhill and Locadia, and I'm just not sure how happy I am about that for the next few weeks. Okay, final different way. Now, because Vardy has dropped in price, I can't do Vardy to Tony and Saka to Son for free. I could have done that if I'd done it earlier on in the week, but because of internationals, because of press conferences still, I just don't like going that early. So I've let the price drop happen. So now Wilson comes into play, right? And I do like Wilson. Anyone that's considering him, I really do like him as an option. So again, it'll be Saka to Son. So Saka goes in most scenarios. And then I've got to make up 0.8 million. So again, Laporte down to a 4.7. Can't quite get to Emerson Royale now because Wilson's gone up in price. Vardy's gone down. It is what it is. Again, Dyer comes in, right? And this is the team that I would play there. So again, it's another hit, but it delays getting Jota. The biggest problem, just to kind of spoiler alert, is the only way to get Jota with this setup is to sell Jimenez, and I wouldn't want to sell him to game week 15 until game week 15. So in game week 13, I could possibly bench Antonio for Eric Dyer. I'm not sure if I would do that. And in game week 14, I don't think I really have a transfer to make. Like, Mbeumo's just not someone I would want to sell this week. And obviously, Wilson's got Norwich, Jimenez has got Burnley. There's not really anyone I would want to sell, right? So we'll worry about that in game week 14. And then game week 15 is when I would sell Jimenez again for Locadia or a 4.4. And I would do Brownhill to Jota, right? And I would just get him in this week instead. And then I've got 0.3 spare. I can probably just about get away with that. And then that would be the team. And then Wilson would be there. Wilson would stay for Burnley at home. And then he's got Leicester away. I could possibly keep him for that and then look to sell him. So there's nothing wrong with that. Essentially, the three plans come down to this. You get Jota straight away, but you're left with Brownhill and Locadia on the bench for a few weeks. You get Jota in game week 14, and you get Locadia this week and Son in for Brownhill, and you just make that switch to 3-5-2. Or you get Jota in game week 15, and the benefit to that is it means I can get Callum Wilson now, but it requires a hit. So right now, I think the non-hit Son and Locadia in is probably where I'm going to go. I think at some point Laporte is going to go down to Eric Dyer. I cannot believe I'm saying that. And I don't think I'm going to go for Kane. I'm just not sure I'm going to want to captain Ronaldo, and I just prefer my team with Jota and with Son for the next few weeks anyway. And so that's basically what I'm trying to build towards. Let me know what your thoughts are. Sorry that was so long. There we go. Look, it was that kind of episode where I've got so many different thoughts and plans that I thought it was worth sharing, because I know sometimes I say I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then it's like, well, why aren't you doing this instead? So I wanted to try and explain why. Okay, Wilson's a good option. I do agree with that, but it takes a hit and it means I have to get Jota another week later. So there's lots going through my mind. I kind of like the idea of just getting him right now. I just don't know if I want to sell him Mbeumo. I know he's not this big, amazing player that's, should stand in the way of Jota, but it just screws up the structure of the team a little bit. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Give it a like if you enjoyed it. Keep hitting that subscribe button, because why the hell not? And a big shout out to everyone that signed up on Patreon. I know it's been a little while since I did this. So Yippee VL, it's probably not how you pronounce it, is it? I'm so sorry. JKS, Andy C, David L, Chris A, Abdullah B, Stephen H, Ann S, Hugo D, Stuart A, James C. Thank you very much. If you want to sign up to Patreon, link in the description below. I'll leave it there. I'll be back tomorrow with captaincy and probably some final thoughts as well. I might go through some pre-recorded kind of questions from you guys as well. So keep a lookout for that, and obviously deadline stream on Saturday. I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching. Give it a like. Hit that subscribe button. See you soon.